Hi everyone, my name's Simran. I'm a writer and a film critic, and I'm going to be moderating today's discussion. But please first join me in welcoming the co-directors Brett Story and Stephen Mang, and also the founder of the ALU, Chris Smalls. I think the rock star treatment feels right. Brett and Stephen just want to shout out a few people in the audience as well, if that's...
Yeah, our incredible composer, Robert Ike Aubrey Lowe. Could you stand up, please? And Alex Gordon, the president of the RMT, is actually in the house. Could you stand up? Are there any other organizers in the house? Oh, wow. All right. Fantastic. Anybody from Coventry? Oh, all right. Cool.
You should be more proud of that, you know.
Yeah.
I thought a good place to start would be with Brett and Stephen. If you can talk a little bit about how you came together to co-direct this project. It feels right to have a film that is collaboratively made, given that it is so much about collaboration. So how did you come to make this film together?
Yeah, so Steve and I have known each other kind of as peers in the film doc world, have been to each other's screenings. You know, you get to know people on the festival circuit. Sometimes you invite people to rough cut screening. I've been a huge fan of his work. He's known as an incredible director, cinematographer, editor for a long time. And when the project started, it was our producers who were first in contact with Chris in developing a project, and I was in conversation with them about it. And when Chris and other organizers decided that they were going to start their unionization effort, we decided to jump sort of all in immediately without waiting for a kind of like a long development period. And it was immediately clear that it should be a collaborative project. We knew it should be an observational film, that that there was going to be a long haul to the organizing, and that that should be matched by a kind of filmmaking attention and duration. And so Steve is the first person that I thought of as a person that I would, that would be an amazing collaborator on this project, because he's got so much experience and had made this film that you can actually talk about, but had made a film that had really made an impression on me called Crime and Punishment. That's also a verite film that follows workers in a very different workforce dealing with many of the same issues.
Yeah, I mean, if you know Brett's work, you know that it's very thoughtful political cinema, and that's something that I really care about, and so it's really exciting for this chance to work together. Yeah, I mean, in my past work, I'll keep it short, but it was a very surprising parallel to what was happening in Amazon. Basically, these minority whistleblower cops in NYPD were basically trying to collect evidence to prove a racially discriminatory practice. And their main complaints were productivity quotas, a culture of fear, and a retaliatory system. And those were very similar, if not some of the exact complaints that the workers on Amazon were experiencing. So it was, somewhat kismet.
Chris, I want to bring you in. As we sort of see in the beginning of the film, you're low-key famous. High-key, as you put it. And so I imagine that with the kind of media attention that you had started to get around sort of your walkout at Amazon, this wouldn't have been the first group of people to have approached you about working together and maybe making some kind of project, right? What made you say yes to these guys?
Yeah, definitely. In 2020, when I was fired, for sure, I was catapulted into the media spotlight overnight. And, I don't even know how some people to this day got my phone number, but it seemed like somebody doxed me, and everybody was calling me trying to either interview me or have me write op-eds or which I did. I wrote a letter to Jeff Bezos in 2020 with The Guardian, by the way. And from there, it just started to continue. And then I ended up on primetime, from MSNBC to CNN to Fox News. And now it was more of the organizing efforts after the memo came out about me being the face of Amazon. I said, if we're going to continue to advocate for workers' rights, then the story needs to be told by the workers. And I already knew in my heart that this would be a good project, but we had no idea that a year and a half, 2 years later, that we're going to be forming a union, and to actually win, that was even more surreal. So I'm just happy that it panned out in our favor, and now we get to share this project as a tool for the working class.
You could have made this film in a number of different ways. It could have been a film about working in a factory. It could have been a film about Amazon specifically. It could have been a film about Chris. Chris, you're a great sort of protagonist and a kind of big personality on screen. But it's not just those things. This is a film about the kind of messy, hard work of coalition building. Why was it important to tell that story and to tell it now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's important to know that, when we started filming, of course, we didn't even know if they would get to an election, let alone whether or not they would win. And it both felt very risky and also not all that interesting to hang the sort of core of the film on the question, will they or will they not win this union? Obviously the conditions at Amazon, like the conditions at many low-wage workplaces, are terrible and anti-worker. And so that's an important sort of precondition to this organizing, but it's not necessarily something that you can probe cinematically in the most satisfying way. And I think for us as a film team, what we noticed early on that most piqued our curiosity and most felt urgent to this moment was this question of how and who brings themselves to a collective effort in a moment of history in which everything has been so thoroughly privatized and individualized that we're not taught in any other aspect of our lives to do anything collaboratively, right? It's not just that people are not part of unions or their parents haven't been part of unions and they're having to overcome that knowledge barrier. It's that we just don't get any practice in modern capitalist life doing things, organizing things together. And so to watch this group of people not just take on a company that is so much more powerful than them, that everyone around them is telling them there's no way you can win, but also committing themselves to learning in real time how to work together and become seasoned political organizers together in struggle. That was both like very interesting to witness and felt very like a real privilege to witness, and also hard, beautiful to watch precisely because it's so hard. Like I've been part of organizing efforts for a long time also, and I've been part of many fights and many disappointments and many heartbreaks. You come to organizing not just because the struggle is righteous, but because you want to feel valued in some space, and you need other people to tell you have value, and then you can know that for yourself. And I think, to watch this group of people not just start a necessary effort, but also show up for each other and really care for each other, and then work out what strategy and tactics needed to be developed, felt very crucial and very necessary to this moment in which I think we can all feel kind of overwhelmed with a sense of pointlessness or hopelessness or defeat.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like after they won, in the minutes and hours, media that had not been around for months, a whole year, in fact, were desperate to know like what was the secret sauce. How did you do it? What was the strategy? And the incredible thing was that their most radical act was they posted up by the bus stop and talked to every single worker that would come by and expressed care, concern, and gave them support in every possible way they could. And so to expand on that, they started to build what was never in existence in their workplace, which is this kind of like community of care and support. And, they would feed workers when they had the funding to do so, and celebrate birthdays when they could, and slowly talked about the structures of a democracy, structures of a functioning organization, and what that looks like. And I think that was an incredible thing, that it was just one conversation after another, one foot in front of the other, and built out of just a concern for fellow workers. I mean, I feel like I saw you have hundreds upon hundreds of conversations when somebody you would come up, you'd be like, how you doing? And they would, tell you their story, for like 40 minutes about how hard it's been. And if anything, above all, Chris is like an incredible listener. And I saw you show a kind of compassion and concern for workers countless times. I mean, there's a whole conversation about that, right? Sort of the empathy reserves that one has and what is left for oneself. I mean, how do you sustain yourself through such a grueling year-long battle? But it was an impressive feat of endurance that they displayed.
Yeah, and on that note of care, I mean, I just want to say as a viewer that, it's really apparent how much care you extended to all of the participants in the film. You detail what their commutes are like, you detail what their sort of private lives are, but not in a way that kind of makes them vulnerable, just in a way that helps us to understand them. I really love the attention to detail that's shown to all the people in the film. Something that you mentioned earlier is the ending. Can you talk about why you chose to end the film on that particular note? And also what conversations you had as a team after the victory, because a lot of people would have ended the film there and you chose not to. So when that happened, how did that impact how you were kind of thinking about how to conclude the film?
I mean, I'll just start really quickly. If we were to end on a victory, it would have been nothing but an utter disservice to the gargantuan challenge that organizers at Amazon are facing, right? To kind of put anything out there that would seed any sort of underestimation of how ruthless and intense and relentless this company and all the companies at the scale of Amazon are going to be, it would have been nothing but a damage to the labor movement. I think, we included the two losses after the victory because Amazon is dead set on stopping unionization efforts, and they stopped two of them, but not the most important one. And so I think it was only but truthful to show those three pieces.
Yeah, and we wanted to make a film that's honest about organizing, and we had made this pact to sort of not end with the results of the election early. If it was going to be a defeat, would we end with the defeat? So why would we end with the victory? But part of the conversation in the edit room as we were figuring out the edit was just like, okay, this is now a story that everybody knows or everybody thinks they know, right? Like the victory was so historic and so tremendous that it was, Chris was all over television. Every newspaper in the world was covering it. And so there was a version of that story that was already out there that did end with the victory and then also wanted to kind of wrap this up in a bow. And we wanted to make a film that's like about people learning how to become politicized, people working together and struggle across all sorts of real differences, right? Differences of age, differences of gender, differences of race. And
class as well.
And class. And organizing is hard. And so the conversation was actually sort of a tonal one. We're not ending with the victory, but how do we end in such a way that we don't undermine the victory? We reflect the fact that organizing is hard and includes defeats and includes hurt feelings, but that doesn't undermine the sense of its urgency, its necessity, and its value. This organizing, was transformative for everybody. It was transformative for us as a film team. It was transformative for everyone who was part of the ALU. And I think like part of that being transformed by something that feels like necessary to show is also like you can be imperfect and be an organizer. You can be imperfect and a flawed person who gets hurt, and also lead a struggle to victory, and then some defeat, and then some more victory. That is what it means to be in struggle, and we wanted like an ending that kind of could encapsulate all those multiplicities.
I'm going to open it up to questions in 1 second. I'm sure everybody is kind of itching to speak to you. But I do have one more thing that I wanted to ask, which is about choosing to make the film as a verite film. What were the political implications of that for you? Why did you feel that was important politically?
I'll just start with this. This idea that Ricky Leacock, one of the grandfathers of documentary observational cinema, used to talk about this obsession with the feeling of being there, right? If you could communicate that in itself could be a transformative experience for people who can't be in a position to bear witness. But moreover, when you look at sort of the demographic of who took the risk to take on the most powerful corporation in the world, it was the exact people, when you think back to 1935 in our country, FDR New Deal reforms included the National Labor Relations Act, which was the first time that workers were now legally allowed to collectively bargain or strike, but negotiate contract terms with their employers. Conspicuously missing were domestic workers and agricultural workers. Who were those? Women, black and brown, immigrant, minority workers. And so flash forward almost 100 years, those are the workers that were now setting out to redefine what grassroots labor organizing in the United States would look like. And lo and behold, not surprising to anybody, I guess if you think about it, the mainstream media took some interest, but there were other organizations that were far more intriguing that didn't look like this organization. And so I think that's sort of like the dirty secret about the labor movement in the United States. It is still coming to terms with a racially discriminatory, marginalizing kind of history.
And maybe I'll just add to that quickly, a concept that we were thinking a lot about in making the film from the very beginning was just the concept of scale. How do we reflect this discrepancy in scale? Something like a massive warehouse that is just one node of a system, a globally transformative supply chain. And I think, I don't usually work in the verite form, but it felt like the appropriate form for this film because it felt like the form that could most get at another part of that discrepancy in scale, which is the idea of intimacy. What we needed to show was not just the fact that Amazon is huge and planetary and that this group is small, but what they have in being small is the intimacy of, of like the sort of texture that Steve was talking about and Chris was talking about, of like what it means to take a bus for 2 hours, to see your colleagues, to ask them about their day, to commit to showing up at the bus stop for 2 hours afterwards, 3, 4, 5 hours, and work at this really intimate level of like feeling and emotion and desire and collaboration. And that's not something that we're going to hit through a bunch of big beats or interviews. That's something that just needs to be sort of quietly observed over the long term, and that's what verite is good at.
I want to open it out to questions. There's a roving mic, so if you stick your hand up and wait for a mic to come to you. Okay, let's start over here if that's okay.
Thank you. Thanks all so much. My question is to you, Chris. How much of the fight do you see as being raising awareness among the Amazon workers, and how much, if any, is it among like raising awareness among the public about Amazon's practices? Because I'll take it personally. It took me like a year to convince my mom to cancel her Prime subscription, and that's both because of Amazon's treatment of workers and also the Amazon AWS services deals with the Israeli military, which are both things that she would deeply care about, and she's a deeply empathetic person, but it's the convenience of Amazon that kind of lulled her into this sense of comfort that And I just want to know is how much do you feel like it's about changing public opinion, if that is indeed a goal to get people to, or is it support in another way rather than cancelling or not using Amazon?
No, great question. Yeah, it's definitely about changing the public interest, for sure. If you think about it, Amazon's only been around for 30 years now. 10, 15 years ago, you were getting up, going to the stores, your mom and pop stores, your main streets, your local bookstores. They're all closed now, or they're all merged into one company, or they are a subsidiary of Amazon. Amazon owns 75 different companies, including a medical company. Now they're looking at medical records. I don't think I want to have Jeff Bezos looking at my medical records. So it's about educating your loved ones. And yeah, it's a drug that people got hooked on. You got to wean them off now. Even my own family is still shopping, and they feel bad about it. But they don't know another way. They feel like it's so it is embedded in our society that they feel like hitting one click buy, the package magically appears. So this film shows the community what we actually go through to get these packages to your doorstep. And I think that's what's been missing in propaganda. You look at an Amazon commercial, you won't see anything but a smile. Everybody's happy. Everybody's fun. But this shows what they don't want to see, the ugliness of it. And not to say that it can't be transformed, because it can be. Amazon's been unionized for over a decade in certain countries, like Italy and France. So it's possible to be a good company. It just hasn't happened in America until we came on the scene. So, cancel your Prime membership, but that's not where they get their main revenue. As you mentioned, AWS is. So, yeah, we got to hold the government accountable, because they're the ones that buy Amazon contracts to support the military-industrial complex, to support the Iron Dome in Israel, and so on and so forth. So it's about holding politicians accountable, to hold Amazon and CEOs accountable for breaking federal laws and violating federal laws every day. And we just had a huge victory yesterday that those captive audiences that y'all just watch are now banned in America forever. Well, let me take that back. Not forever, until Trump, But that's what we got to do. Honestly, yeah, we have a short window on that, but it's a major victory, and it's the small victories that matter, and we have to once again spread the message. Everybody in the room has a role to play, because if not, in the next few years, one out of every 4 people are going to be working at this company, or know somebody who work at this company.
Let's take another question. Let's go down here. Okay.
Yeah, couple of things.
Oh, sorry. We're just going to have this person first.
Thanks. My question's for Chris as well. You're such an inspiration. It's great to get to see you. I'm wondering, this is a big question, but I'm wondering why you think far-right leaders like Trump, but not only Trump, in many countries in the world right now, why are they doing so well? And what can we do about it? It's obviously a big question, but any thought you would have, I would be interested to hear.
You set me up.
Chris, we need the short version of this.
Short version. All right. Well, it's simple. Union density has been on a decline for decades. Major labor unions, there is a disconnect with the working class. As you see how our election results just went in America, all the Democrats, all the major unions endorsed, except for a select few, endorsed Kamala. And I was sitting there tweeting, saying, what the hell are y'all doing? Because if y'all can't see that they're committing genocide, then there's something wrong here. And I think that's a major issue that's been happening with major unions, is that they're losing their way when it comes to certain working class issues. And they have to be at the forefront at a lot of these issues right now. Number one, climate. is a real thing. Number two, women's rights. Then we're talking about the economy and job security and so on and so forth. But labor unions have to be at the forefront of every working class issue because it is our duty and responsibility to be a shield for the working class. There's been a disconnect, and as Steve was alluding to, representation is a huge problem. I mean, how many black presidents you know? If you only know me, that's a major problem. And these are the conversations that need to be held in spaces where labor unions, major labor unions have, and representation is still not there. They have a long way to go. And I hope they learned a hard lesson from this election in America and realize that they have to do better, and we have to hold them accountable as well.
Can we go over here, please?
Hello.
Oh, you've already got a mic. Who's? No. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. We'll go here.
Thank you, filmmakers, for your dedication. Chris, you're American hero. Thank you. Can you all hear me? No? Okay.
I'll repeat the question, so go ahead.
Question. In the film, we see the union-busting tactics on the Amazon property. Did you guys encounter any surveillance or intimidation around your home or offices?
The question, for anyone who didn't quite catch it, was about surveillance at Amazon. Did you have anybody kind of trying to dox you or come into your home, or any kind of intimidation tactics?
No, but during the 12 months that we really were closely on the ground with Chris and the ALU, I mean, there were a lot of instances where people felt they were being followed, and we were there too, and you guys pointed out the cars from time to time that could have easily been something, not unlike the way corporations used the Pinkertons, a century ago, but something interesting. Just it's not in the film, but right after the victory, Amazon did issue a list of 24 objections, and two of those included our team, mentioning that, or the claiming that the ALU had hired us to basically coerce or persuade workers, influence them into voting in favor of the union, basically going around threatening workers.
That's quite complimentary of documentary filmmaking,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, and
So you have power.
In the NLRB hearing, they actually put like a photo of me holding the camera, and they're like, "See, just look at him." I'm like, okay. Yeah.
I definitely been in. I definitely been followed. Yeah, they hired private investigators. They showed up to my house a few times, but for them it wasn't a good idea. In the film, I'm living in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America, not only in New Jersey. It's one of the murder capitals of our country, where black men get killed at the age of 25, literally. And for them to come to that hood in a black unmarked truck, they stuck out like a sore thumb. They came one time, and I think they got scared. But that was one instance that happened very early on. But yeah, I'm pretty sure, Jeff Bezos is tapped in. Definitely on my social media, they have a team of lawyers that archive everything I post. If I'm saying I'm going to an Amazon warehouse, whether it's here in America, here in the UK or in America, I will be met with police presence. They have set up roadblocks for me. They have done crazy things that I can go on and on about. But yeah, it's real. They have endless money, endless resources, and we're talking about messing up a billionaire's money. He don't like it.
We probably got time for one more. Okay, I'm going to give you the floor, so you better make it good. No pressure.
Thanks. Thank you for this wonderful film. I had a question about the reception that the film has gotten with you sharing it over the past year, I think you said. And then connected to that to Chris, how do you feel viewing the film and looking back at what's happened?
Well, of course, it's traumatizing to watch sometimes because we lived this experience, and it's still ongoing. These people I'm still, working with, and we're still organizing, and tensions are always high when you're organizing, no matter what. And yeah, I mean, the film is doing what I thought it would do. The reaction that it's getting has been positive. Of course, we have our own critiques, what we wanted in or what we didn't want in, but I'm satisfied with the outcome because, once again, if it was me watching it for the first time, I definitely would have been motivated and inspired to get involved, and I hope that's what is done here. And it's a tool, this is a tool for everybody to use now. And, this is still the beginning, very, very much the beginning. We don't have a bargaining order. The company's still refusing to bargain with the ALU. And we're running out of time. We got Trump now, and he's going to appoint the NLRB in the next few months and try to reverse workers' rights to back over 100 years. So basically erase our victory altogether. And knowing that, I have to have a sense of urgency, and I think we all do. We all have to have a sense of urgency because what happens in America affects everything that happens worldwide. All these billionaires, all these corporations, they all partnering up to sue governments and try to take away workers' rights. And unions, once again, we have to be the line of defense and the shield for the working class.
Brett and Stephen, the film is not having a traditional release. You're self-distributing it. As a kind of takeaway before everybody goes home tonight, can you tell them a little bit about that campaign and also where they can watch it again or tell others to watch it and how people can get the word out about this film?
Sure, yeah, and I think it relates to the last question too. We premiered the film at a festival at Sundance Festival almost a year ago, last January, and it's been playing. It's played about 100 festivals since then, and we've had the opportunity to take it around the world. It's been really amazing. People recognize themselves in it. They understand that the struggle is international. They understand that it's asking questions about the challenges of finding power in today's world. But we didn't get traditional distribution, so we are getting it to audiences ourselves, which is also really gratifying. I mean, I feel like we're actually taking lessons from the ALU playbook and self-distributing the film, which means that we've booked theaters around, first in the United States. Now we're premiering it here in London. We've got a video on demand window starting Black Friday, which is soon, like in 5 days or something. And we've got an impact campaign, which is that we're collaborating with organizers, unions, other campuses, other organizations to see, how people want to make use of this film. Sometimes a film is just there to occasion a space. It's just there to gather people together and spark conversation. But we want the film to be seen by as many people as possible in communal spaces, and we're just making that happen, and we'll see about a distributor, another kind of distributor down the road. But for now, we're just doing it ourselves, and it's been great.
Can't you get Amazon to stream it?
Yeah, you'd think they're that greedy. I just want to add one idea. There's this idea of alienation in capitalism, right? It's when corporations, stakeholders, whoever it is, try and set the value, actually devalue the product of one's labor, right? One's efforts, to devalue the work that any Amazon worker would put into creating a product or delivering anything. At the same time, it operates in the same way in our distribution landscape that, the media conglomerates that have been narrowed into these several monopolies are trying to, in a way, set valuation of certain kinds of film, saying that political cinema is not of interest to audiences, that the data, the algorithms are, returning information that says, oh, this is not going to be something that perhaps our audiences want to watch. And I think that is a real threat to everything we hold dear, that, in the same way it affects organizing and worker power, the fact that we made this film and the distributors are really saying, we know some of these people are saying we love the film, but this is a hard one because we do some business with Amazon. We're living in a moment where very few companies and people and gatekeepers determine the narrative that is going to go out into the world. And what we are fighting, if anything, sort of to your question earlier, is, this is a battle of competing narratives, right? Their version of the world as they see it and want people to see it, and ours and Chris's and the ALU's. And so, we, urge you, if this movie did anything for you, please spread the word, because the self-distribution route is something we're really proud of, and we get to do it on our own terms, but we do need your support, because this is just yet another film that could fall into oblivion.
So if you like it, put your money where your mouth is. Please join me in thanking Brett Story, Stephen Mang, and Chris Small.
Thank you.